Greetings, everyone. Welcome to episode 45 of GuildGab, a show all about everything Guild Wars 2. Today we're going to be talking about mastery lines and some of the new information that we got so far, though there's going to be a lot more revealed at Gamescom this weekend, as well as tomorrow on Points of Interest. So, we have RPG Shack and Inks with us. Alex and Inks.
Hey!
What's going on, guys?
What's going on?
We're trying to summon a Corvus. There might be a Corvus floating around here at some point. I don't know.
Yeah.
And Akasaurus Rex is out because right now there is the big Blizzard conference going on at Gamescom, and they are announcing their new expansion and everything going on with that game. And so Ox's head is exploding right now.
He's
said,
having fun.
Yes, he is having fun. He said, you know what? My mind is completely World of Warcraft right now, so I better just bow out from this one. So,
should we start off with when the expansion is coming out?
When it's ready. Lol.
Not only when it's ready, we don't have a release date. Inks is about to break the internet again. We don't have a release date yet, but it was confirmed yesterday from Gamescom that it is coming out in 2015. So it will be out before the end of the year. Which is fantastic news because we were starting to get a little worried.
The day before January 1st.
I saw someone say December 31st doesn't count.
No, absolutely not. That might as well be 2016. But, so here's the thing. If they did push it back to 2016, would you want them to do that to make sure that it was ready?
Yes.
That was another comment that I saw a lot, was people saying don't rush it just to get it out in 2015, and I agree with that. I would rather, if it's not going to be ready, and I mean I have faith that it's going to be ready, but we know ArenaNet makes constant updates. They're constantly improving, they're constantly balancing based on player feedback, based on how people are playing the game. So I have faith that it's going to be ready and it's going to be in an extremely polished and playable state. But if it wasn't going to be, I would have no problem waiting until next year. Personally, I want it to be out when it's ready.
I really don't think that's going to be the case, especially after this announcement. But I mean, if they really had to, then it's better to have it complete and working and solid, rather than release it and then have them try and play catch-up to finish a Mordremoth encounter or some other boss encounter or something like that, right? I'd rather have that complete and finished because, not myself, but there will be players who rush through all that story, who rush through all that content, and they're done, and at the end of the story, at the very least, within 2 or 3 days.
Yeah.
There's just people who are that good, who are very good at time management and character management and stuff, that are going to be able to do that. So I would rather it be complete for everybody than say, oh, we probably have a couple weeks and we can polish this up while it's launching. I'd rather just have it launch complete.
Yeah.
That being said, I do think it's going to happen, October-ish. It's kind of a weird time, I know, October, November. I realize that's a weird time, but that would be my current guess as to when we might see. Pure speculation, not going off of anything. It's just my gut reaction to, the news that we had this week.
Yeah.
And even just kind of touching on what we mentioned at the very beginning of the show, the new Warcraft expansion has been announced, and they usually release it within a few months of when they announce it, especially with this new model that they want, that they're trying to put into place. So I think in an ideal world it would have been out by now, because we're in I think, because it was announced in January, I think 8 or 9 months they were ready to, I think they should have been ready to go now. Now, if you look at Bethesda, Fallout 4 was finished in April, and then they announced it at E3. So obviously the hype train's all going and everything, and I would love it to be ready and solid, and have everything in place before the end of the year. But like you're saying, if they can't get that polished experience to us and end up rushing it out, I think that will do much more harm to the game than
right.
waiting
sure.
a couple more months.
What if it launched without the challenging group content and they said, oh, that's coming soon because it's not ready?
Yeah, not good.
No,
not good.
that would not be good.
I've got to be honest, I must be the only person who doesn't care about this challenging group content. It's
You're the only person.
yeah.
It's funny. There are it's funny because there's features in the game that I'm like, I don't think that I'm really going to play that much, but I know that the community wants it so bad. Like capes. I don't care. I probably won't use a cape, honestly, if capes ever come out, but the community is so hyped about this one thing that I get excited for the community. I'm like, oh, I want this announced, or I want this feature so that everybody can enjoy it. You know, like, challenging group content might be a little over my head. I don't know, but I'm excited for them to announce it because I know that the community is going to react positively to it, and no matter what it is, it's going to be awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I think I don't know, it's just that there's, because I think part of this show has always been about the lore aspect, hasn't it, rather than any kind of like hardcore number crunching. We're all relatively, dare I say the word, casual, although Hannah would probably disagree considering how many hours I've sunk into Guild Wars 2 over the last 3 years. She just stuck her tongue out at me as well, which kind of proves my point. But I think the way that we approach it is kind of like, yeah, we want to experience the story, and we want to experience the world, and we want to go and collect like shiny things, and you know, you've got the big speedrunning guilds and clearing guilds who are into kind of maximizing DPS and all that kind of thing. And I know there's another Guild Wars 2 chat show which Mr. Inks may be a part of. I know that I know that you guys tend to discuss that kind of thing a little bit more than we do here.
More numbers, yeah.
Yeah, they do more the numbers thing. Well, this show started as being all about lore. Because that's what, you know, Ak and I were the ones that started the show, and we're more about the lore than the numbers. So, but I'm happy now that we have you, both of you, on here, because you guys know a little more about the numbers than we do, a lot more about the numbers than we do, so you can talk about that aspect, and we don't have to focus the entire show on it. Yeah.
I mean, I assume it would. Well, I guess we're going to be talking about this in a little bit anyway. But with the upcoming beta weekend, it would be nice if they could sneak one of those group content things somewhere right down in the back of the of one of the maps, where you really have to kind of blast through the content and be like proper hardcore to get to it to experience it.
Well, let's go into what they announced in the articles today. We know that we're going to get about 25% of the Verdant Brink map. Now, I don't know if that is equal to what we saw during the last beta. We had a beta where we got to explore more of Verdant Brink. That was a closed beta. And I don't know if that's equal or if there's going to be more of it.
I would say it's pretty close to what we've seen. If there is something new, it won't be a lot of new. So if you played before in these closed things in Verdant Brink, the latest Verdant Brink, where we had like a couple of the adventures and such, I would expect the play area to generally be the same.
Sorry. I'm not sure what that was.
They also said we're getting the first story instance. Now, I don't know if this is that demo story instance that we did, or if this is actually the first story instance, because we know that demo that's not how you start out Heart of Thorns exactly, because you have to get into the Maguma jungle first, and whereas in the demo, we started in the Maguma jungle.
So, go ahead.
I was going to say, in the last closed beta, those of us who were in it, and the guys who got the portals, you actually start off in the Silver Wastes in Red Rock Bastion, I think.
Yeah.
And you have to do a few fights, and then you make your way through to, the Verdant Brink, and then some story stuff happens, which I won't spoil because it's so cool when you see it.
That's right. Okay, so it's probably going to be all that same stuff. But we're going to be using
maybe a little bit more.
Maybe
because
more?
I think they said we get the first chapter.
Oh, right.
So it might be like a little bit more story, and I'm hoping that we get to choose both paths. Although they might lock that off, right? Because
That's
there's two
possible.
choices to make, and we've always seen the one choice. So hopefully we'll get to see both choices. But at the same time, you know, I definitely fall into the camp of I don't want to spoil too much of the story for myself. I want
Right.
to save
Right.
a lot
I don't
of
think
that
they're going to
for
let us
launch.
spoil too much of the story as well. So I doubt they would
So-
let us do like an entire chapter of the story. I really doubt that they're going to spoil too much.
Right, so I wouldn't be overly disappointed if it was basically the same story we've seen already. It'll let people who haven't had a chance to experience it experience it already. It'll allow us who have played it to refresh our memory as to what exactly there is there for the story, to experience that moment again, and you guys know exactly what I'm talking about. So I really wouldn't be that disappointed if we don't get a lot more story. ArenaNet has already said they don't want to spoil the story, because that's huge. They don't want to spoil too much of the exploration. So, you know, we're gonna continue to get about 25% of Verdant Brink. We're gonna continue to get that first bit of the story without spoiling too much more. But you know, we're gonna be able to go into Central Tyria, which I think is what they're calling it
Yeah.
now. And you can experience that, and the map bonuses will be a thing this coming weekend as well. So
I'm
that's
very
pretty
curious to
big.
see how that's going to work. And that's only going to work on your beta character, because your beta characters is a completely separate account that mirrors your account when it was created, when the beta character slot was created. So even though you can go back into Central Tyria and you'll be able to this map rewards system, which gives you, like, in certain maps and certain times, you're going to get certain rewards. So if you're looking for ancient bones, and that's something you really need, then you'll be able to tell, okay, I can go to this map at this time and farm and do do what you do on that map, and you're guaranteed to get those ancient bones. So that's
Right.
kind of how this map reward system is going to work. But that's only going to be on your beta characters. That's not implemented in the live game yet.
And your beta characters will be deleted and obliterated and incinerated before Heart of Thorns comes out.
Right.
But they will hang around for the remainder of the beta weekends. So when we get to beta weekend 3 or whatever, the beta character that you make now or this weekend is it's still going to be there up until the day Heart of Thorns launches. So you can keep that little bit of a progression with your characters
Before it's all destroyed.
Before it's all destroyed like Lion's Arch when they run out of story ideas. What?
It'd be great if Scarlet just walked up and slayed your character and they die.
The Scarlet
Well,
finisher, that'd
we're
be pretty
getting
cool.
4 beta character slots this time around, so that we can experience
Oh my gosh! I'm so
more
excited to play the Dragon Hunter.
more specialization.
That's what I'm
stuff,
doing
right?
first.
I'm actually feeling taken advantage of as a veteran player because there's the Revenant and the 4 specializations, and I feel that I should have 5 beta character slots.
Oh, jeez.
Oh,
Don't even start that conversation.
you're right. You're right.
I quit. That's it. You don't need to fire me this week.
Oh my gosh.
No. Being able to access the Revenant and the specializations it's going to be so cool.
Yeah. We get to play
Yeah.
with Shiro for the first time, right?
Yeah.
First.
Yeah, basically a complete Revenant, minus underwater, of course, but basically a complete Revenant now.
Right.
Um,
Revenant can't swim.
And, you know, I can't speak a whole lot about the other classes, but I know I've seen Roy talk about on Twitter where he was saying that he already has some changes for the Revenant in mind after this weekend, but of course he's waiting for the feedback as well. So there's already going to, whatever you experience this weekend, there will be changes and tweaks to all of these specializations, all of these classes, but the feedback that you give is extremely important at this stage of the development, because right now it's about tweaking numbers, how the class feels. I mean, look at the Revenant. We went into testing this the last bonus weekend, players were really impassioned by the fact that they needed to have a weapon swap, and all of a sudden, boom, you now have weapon swap. So it goes to show you how important, your constructive feedback is in this part of the process.
And even going back to the original beta weekends, it was kind of generally agreed that the game was too hard. Like, the game was really hard. Come on, beta weekend 1, man, it was pretty solid, wasn't it?
It was glorious.
Yeah, it was great. Back when us hardcore players were... No, but
talking about, like, I'm sorry, Alex, but talking about, and even at launch, I think this was a thing, but the Fire Shaman, there's an event in the Charlands, the Fire Shaman, and there was this bridge that led into his cave, and literally 30, 40 dead bodies on a spot because you could not make it across this bridge to get to... They eventually nerfed him, like, into the ground, sadly, but he was so strong in betas and so strong, like, within, like, the first week of launch or so, that when people went and did that event, because everybody was leveling, everybody was in those starting areas, you would see, like, 40 to 50 dead Char at this... He wasn't even a world boss. He was just this mini event that happened in that particular area. You can still... The event's still there. You can still go do it, but... Yeah, it's just funny.
It's not the same.
Yeah, it's just funny, like, those things. These are the experiences. If you're in the beta, these are the experiences you can look forward to having, as well as... And I don't know that ArenaNet's going to do this, but in the original beta weekends, there was always a special end event. Take place. And people were always, like, super special, fun little things to do at the very end of the beta weekend. So, I don't want to get hopes up, but I'm hoping that we have a special
think of that
this weekend.
Wasn't one of them like a branded
That's
challenge
the one that I experienced. Was everybody got turned into a branded and just ran around just slaying everything.
Yeah, you could go and kill people.
There was at least 3 of them that I remember. So the very first one that I experienced was we all gathered in Divinity's Reach, and they released giant ogres. Somebody else, I think Wood and Potatoes, somebody was saying they were golems. I kind of remember them as Etten or ogres or something. And they were so strong and powerful that you couldn't actually kill them. So they went around slaughtering everybody who was gathered at the end of the event. Yeah. And then the second one was the branded, where you would get killed or infected. You'd become a branded to then go and kill other players and make them branded. And then the final one was, it was like the starving games.
The Hunger Games?
Oh, the Hunger Games.
Jeez. It was a very Hunger Games thing where you needed to survive, and when you died, you turned into a robot that could drop, like, ammunition and health packs and stuff for other players. Kind of like the Karka mini event that we now have. It was different in a lot of ways, but kind of like that. But they were all fun events, and they went on for, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes at the end of the beta weekend. So really, really looking forward to seeing if ArenaNet does anything like that this time around.
I wouldn't be surprised or disappointed if they don't, simply because they've got their hands so full. I can't imagine that they could do anything super elaborate. Like, they could do something, turn everybody into Mordrum wolves or something, and you can run around.
Right.
Something simple like that. I can't imagine them taking extra time to do something fancy, but who knows? We'll see. Let's go right into, I know I see a lot of people like, talk about the mastery system and the stuff that was revealed. So, basically they revealed that with the, at the launch of Heart of Thorns, there's going to be 7 mastery lines that you can make progress in. 3 of them are going to be in Central Tyria, which means anywhere except the Heart of Maguma, you'll be able to work on these. And then 4 of them in the Heart of Maguma. Just real quickly, because we've already heard about these, the 4 that are in the Heart of Maguma is, of course, the Exploration Mastery line, which is like gliding, mushroom jumping, stuff like that. And then you've got the lore ones with the Itzel, the Nuhawk, and the Exalted. Those are the three lore-based mastery lines in the Heart of Maguma. You can only make progress towards those in the Heart of Maguma. The 3 in Central Tyria are actually the interesting ones to me.
Yeah,
we've got the Fractal Attunement Mastery. We knew that there was going to be a Fractal Mastery line. We have the legendary precursor crafting mastery, which we knew was going to be a thing because you get to use the mastery system to get your precursors now. And then the new one that we've never heard of before, Pact Commander Mastery. This is the new one, and this is the one that I think everybody was kind of losing their minds a little bit because this came out of nowhere to me. Like, what? I'm going to read this is a direct quote from the IGN article on this. The Pack Commander Mastery line focuses on mentoring new players and enables you to have a special icon over your head or in chat to indicate you're happy to help others. Continuing along this path will also unlock the ability to revive allies faster based on how many levels lower than you they are, and even two features all Guild Wars 2 fans have been desperately wanting for a long time: auto loot and speed boosts in cities.
Woo!
When I read auto loot, I lost my mind. I was like, "Oh my god! Like, are you serious? Like auto loot? I wanted that forever."
Isn't how do you think this auto loot thing will differ from having instant area loot though? Because
you don't have to push anything. You if you are
it just appears in your inventory.
As soon as you kill something, it appears in your inventory. Or maybe there could be a range. Like if you are super long, if you're using a longbow and you're way far away from the enemy, you might have to move closer. But as soon as you move in range, I mean, to me, this is what auto loot means. As soon as you move in range, you get it. You don't have to push F. You don't. You know, there's no more I didn't see that there was a box on the ground. I didn't see the little sparkle from the enemy.
You didn't see your little steel chest.
Right, exactly.
With your precursor in
auto in your inventory.
Yeah. Okay, that's pretty cool.
I've always thought that your minis should pick up your loot for you. They should run over to the enemy and pick up your loot.
Well, that was quite in the Old Republic. There was like a little thing that your companions could do where you could send them off on missions and they'd come back with like little bits of loot and that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So yeah, minis. We want minis. We want minis to get our loot. We want minis to be used in Polymock. We want minis. Polymock Mastery. That'd be brilliant.
Polymock Mastery line.
But no, I think this Pack Commander thing is a really great way to help new players. And on top of that, guilds are going to be recruiting with people who have got Pack Commander Mastery. There's going to be a ton of new players. There's going to be a ton of new guilds. And having all these people in like Queensdale, Caledon, Wayfarer, and Metrica, hopefully it'll create a really nice, friendly new atmosphere. Because obviously they're going to be people who've bought the game to play Heart of Thorns, and they just want, I want to be a revenant. I don't want to go and kill wyverns in the jungle, and I want to use my gliding skills and all that kind of thing. And yeah, people might want that, but to me, Guild Wars has always been about the guilds and the community, and having. I don't quite know what the expression is, but having like beacons of friendliness in maps,
right?
And say, hey, there's a really interesting thing down this hidden path, or hey, do you guys want to come and check out your first jumping puzzles or something? It's pretty awesome, I think. And on top of that, I don't know if this has already come into the game, but they were going to adjust the scaling for players who were scaled down in starter zones to make it a little bit more challenging. I don't know if that's coming into the game.
Yeah, they already have.
All right, I didn't notice.
Yeah, if you do some of the mid zones, I guess you can really tell the difference. Lower zones, not so much, but like the mid zones, the 40s and 50s and stuff, you can.
Oh, cool.
I guess it's kind of semi upper tier, but still, you can notice the difference in some of the upper zones. What I find interesting about this entire mastery line is that these all seem to be like quality of life things for your account. So I think they even mentioned like rezzing people faster as well.
Yeah.
So like you can res faster, you can run around the city faster, which is rather interesting when you think about LA and the jumping puzzle and that sort of thing.
Oh.
and of course the auto loot, which is, I mean, come on, that's amazing. Who doesn't like? You don't have to worry about collecting your loot anymore. You just run around, kill things, and you get whatever. Yeah, I mean, I'm interested to see what else is part of that line, because it's rather interesting that these are like quality of life things for your account that clearly I think you're going to want to go after. I mean, I know for sure. I don't know how high on my priority list this is. It depends on the other things. But certainly, I mean, I'm going to want these things for my account. It's just going to make my life feel better in game.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm all for it.
I'm just curious. They don't give us any kind of an order, like what order these are coming in, because you level up your master line and you get one reward, and then you level it up some more until you earn the next reward and the next one. There's a lot of questions with this. If this is meant to be like, it focuses on mentoring new players, it focuses on helping people, I don't want people going for it for these rewards such as auto loot and faster rezzing if they have no intention of helping people. You know, I hope that, you know, it also becomes a question of, why would they hide these things behind a mastery track line and not just give them to us in like a feature pack as a quality of life thing? Why are they in the mastery track line? And I could see them as being bonuses. Yeah, reviving allies faster. That's not something you just add in, you know, a feature pack. That's something that you have to earn. And that's, you know, and again, it's really for people who are a lower level than you. So you're not going to go into level 50 fractals with your level 80 buddies and, you know, oh, do you have the Pact Commander Mastery line? Can you res people faster? You know, that's not, that I can imagine it's not going to affect your peers.
Pact Commander or kick.
Right,
Mastery
exactly. You don't want these mastery lines suddenly determining what you're worth in like a dungeon or fractal group.
No.
So, sort of an interesting correlation or an interesting thought is that when we had the old daily system, this has now since been changed and we don't see this anymore, but when we had the old daily system, one of the dailies you would constantly see was res 10 people or something like that. And so people would go out of their way to then run around and actually res people. Otherwise, I mean, you have players who will always help res because they want to be helpful, but there's a lot of players who would probably just run by you and not even bother resing you. This incentivizes, the daily would incentivize you to then res people. And of course, if you were a new player and didn't have the achievement for resing X number of players, then you would go out of your way to do that as well. So I see this mastery line as a way to incentivize older players, or level 80 players, because that's when mastery is unlocked for you. I see this as a way to incentivize those players to want to go out of their way to help people because they're getting a benefit. They're unlocking the mastery system. They're going to unlock auto loot and speed in cities and res faster and whatever else is in the line. And by doing so, they help the new community out, which makes them feel, you know, warm and welcomed and like this is a friendly community. And it rewards the old players for being helpful and friendly. So it's almost like a what's the word I'm looking for? It's like an incentive program in some ways, except that it's a mastery line that you can decide to turn on or off, do a different mastery line, or whatever the case is. Because they mentioned an icon as well, and me and Aurora talked about this a little bit. Is this an icon you can toggle on and off? Is this an icon that's always up? Is this icon only up when you have the mastery line equipped so that other players can say, hey, you know, if, for example, if you were running around and seeing an ArenaNet dev tag, there's a number of players who would go out of their way to jump around in front of them or ask them questions or talk to them or to try and communicate with them. So by having this icon on your name when this mastery line is equipped, if that's indeed how it works, newer players can say, hey, this guy is a helper guy. He's probably going to help me do an event or res me or whatever else that you need to do to be helpful. So it's kind of a give and take, right? It helps new players feel included and belonged and that the game is very cooperative with other players. You're happy to see other players. And at the same time, the veteran players getting something out of it. They're getting this quality of life change to their character. Now, I do understand there's there's going to be this thought process, or there's going to be this line of thinking that says, well, why can't I just get auto loot on my account? Why can't they just give that to me? Why can't we just remove the speed characters that are in cities now, and we just always move faster in cities? And they could do that, right? That's certainly something that ArenaNet could do. But I think that these are quality of life things that they decided to add into the game and say, hey, you can work towards these for your account, be helpful at the same time, be an ambassador of the community, so to speak, and get rewarded for doing so. This is kind of like a system for that. And Mastery kind of fits that system, right? It's an unlock for an account. So yeah, we'll see.
It's interesting to note as well that for new players below level 5, you don't get a down state still, I believe. You still die straight off, don't you? And even if you are kind of like running around and you die, you're just like, you know, it's like as a veteran player, when you die, you're just screw it, waypoint. But if you've got someone who's gonna up you in kind of 2 or 3 seconds, I think that could keep new groups together. And there's a lot of talk about in chat about Autoloot being a quality of life thing, which I kind of agree with to an extent. But what if you say your account automatically gets Autoloot, but it's it's a very short range, so the mastery is all about expanding the range of your Autoloot ability. So I mean,
I like that.
See, as a ranger, my longbows are 1500 now, 1500 range, and I would think it's a little bit unfair on somebody compared to somebody like a melee thief, that we both have the same ability to auto loot, despite the fact that I'm in relatively little danger.
I agree that I really liked Alex's idea of the auto loot be in there, but you have to be like on top of the enemy. Whereas then if you do the mastery track, you can level it up so that the area of effect gets bigger.
Yeah.
Right.
I like that a lot.
Motherfucker! I've got cramp in my thigh. Hang on.
Oh god, a Charlie horse? Oh.
Jeez,
no.
the pain.
It's Morgemoth.
Is it a Charlie horse?
It's Corvus trying to summon himself.
Through his leg.
Throughout his leg.
You were away from Corvus for too long. The Corvalix is trying to reform.
Oh.
Sorry.
Oh, dearie me.
Yeah.
Sorry, we're laughing at your pain.
It's alright.
It's just tortured.
Oh, Jesus.
There's like a little like Corvus head coming out of the side of his window.
Oh. Deary crikey me. Sorry, boys and girls, for saying a bad word.
Are you okay?
Yeah. Anyway. Back to Guild Wars.
It's gonna burst through your leg like Alien. Little Corvus.
Or like Zeus. That's how one of the Greek gods was born. Zeus, wove a little
Alex
embryo
is
to his
giving
leg.
birth to a god.
Giving birth
to Corvus. To the dark god Corvus.
For anyone who doesn't know what just happened, I got cramp in my hamstring and it hurts.
They're the worst.
Yeah.
They're the worst.
We call them Charlie horses out here.
It's not healthy just sitting here.
Yeah. Wasn't even doing exercise. Jesus. Anyway,
so along the same line as the mastery track, we got a statement about the mastery system that was actually pretty quickly corrected by Colin. The IGN article originally said that that they estimated that collecting all 39 masteries coming at launch. That's not mastery lines. We have 7 lines, and within those lines, there's 39 different masteries that you can or rewards that you can reach. And it said that those 39 will likely take players as long as leveling from 1 to 80 to get all 39 of them. And we were all going, what? You'll max them out in no time. That's nothing. And then...
Yeah.
But
unless
Colin,
you're me. Yes.
but Colin has corrected that and said that that's not quite true. It's going to take a lot longer than that, and he didn't really specify. But that, he's like, don't worry. I think people were kind of freaking out about that. Me personally was like, to me, when I think of the mastery system, it should be, I imagine it as something like achievement points, like all the achievements, whereas it's something that you can almost never really get them all. You're always there's always something else to work towards. Now, yes, they're going to release more as the game progresses, like this is their in-game progression system, so they're going to continuously be releasing new mastery lines, but the fact of getting all of them in the time it takes from 1 to 80, I'm like, over the weekend, someone can, like, max out their mastery track? That doesn't make any sense to me.
30 hours of gameplay, maybe?
Right, so...
Yeah, something like that.
I think that it should be...
3 years for me.
I think it should be about 1 to 80 for each line.
Right.
Each mastery line should be like, what?
Yeah, that's... Oh, for each line. Sorry, I thought you meant for each point.
No. So to get your precursor, your first precursor, like 1 to 80, like that's the length of time. I think that's a good. And now I love leveling alt, so I'm very familiar with what it takes to get from 1 to 80, even just on a casual level. And I was like, that's too fast for all of them. Yeah. So I think one line should take 1 to 80.
I think that's. I mean, the number needs to be adjusted, obviously, a little bit, but I think it's fair. I mean, what they said in the article was that you would level masteries up by mastery points plus experience. Now, I mean, we really need to know. A long time ago, they had said that things like the experience scrolls really wouldn't factor into masteries at all. Like that wouldn't help you or give you a bonus. But if it's experience, like, you know, past level 80, if it's experience plus mastery points, then does this mean food affects that? Does this mean fireworks that stack an XP bonus, does that affect it? Do boosters affect how much experience you gain and how fast you can go? Because if you stack enough of this stuff up, and you can stack a lot of it up, you can level 1 to 80 pretty darn quickly. I mean, just this morning, I did 24 levels on one character, and that was in a span of, I don't know, 6 hours or something like that.
Yeah.
So if I can do that many levels in like 6 or 7 hours, I mean, that's still a considerable amount of playtime. 6 or 7 hours, it's like a whole day's worth of work, basically. But, I mean, and that's probably not even like the high point of the track. That's probably, I mean, that might be a little bit above average or something, but... yeah, I don't know. It doesn't seem like if it's only going to take me 30 or 40 hours to max out masteries, it seems kind of too short.
How is that in-game progression?
Yeah,
it's not. Basically, I think if you can reach the final goal, max out all masteries, then there goes your in-game progression because you're done.
Yeah.
Now what do? You're back to square one. You go through fractals. But so yeah, I imagine it should be something like you can never achieve. It takes so long. So that makes it so you really have to pick and choose which ones you want to max. Yeah. Because otherwise, if you could just max them all in a week, then there's no point in choosing. You could just do them all. So, but also they're going to be releasing more, and we don't know how frequently. I could see a 2-week cadence adding a mastery line every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
That'd be quite a lot, but...
They did Living Story every 2 weeks, and that is a lot of content.
So you just add more... But, I mean, I think so... So what you do by adding a new mastery line in for people to... You're essentially kind of putting in an XP grind, aren't you, really? If that's the way that you go.
Yeah.
True.
It's better than a gear grind, I suppose. But the thing is, people... The way that endgame works at the moment, you're inadvertently grinding XP anyway, because when you do dungeons, you pretty much get a level, don't you? You know, when you do World v World, you get World XP and, you know, PvE experience. So you're getting it anyway.
I was kind of fine with like the length of when he originally said, but then again, I'm not really embarrassed by it. I don't mind admitting it. It takes me forever, like a freaking tortoise, to actually finish the level grind from 1 to 80, because I smell the roses way too much. And
you also restart your characters in every
yes,
month.
But I mean,
but
yeah,
that's actually a really good point. Is that you can't, while you have to design. I mean, this content has to be designed in a way that it you know caters to every kind of player. you got to think of the extreme casuals as well as the hardcore people who will play non-stop to get their achievements, to get their mastery lines. So there has to be some kind of balance. And like you said, yes, there's going to be someone who plays 24/7, and even on this adjusted scale, maybe they're going to max them out in a week because they literally don't turn the game off. But that's honestly, I say that's their own problem. You know, the same way people, you know, someone will level from 1 to 80, not stop to smell the roses, and then complain, oh, now there's nothing to do. Well, you're the one that got to 1 to 80 in a day. That's your own problem.
Yeah, because like I remember
Alex,
back when like the game was like first coming out. Back when I like first jumped into the game, and like there was like a podcast where like they're like sounding so depressed and jaded, and like I think this was like the very early parts of the first living story were coming out. So for me everything was new, but then I was hearing this guy saying how he was like, yeah, well, I finished in 3 days, like the 1 to 80, and I just remember like hearing that and just being so like mind boggled, like 1 to 80, given how freaking huge Tyria is, especially to me, just with there's so many events and so many things to do. And he was like, yeah, I just leveled in 3 days, man. I was like, and there's nothing to do, and I was like, 3 days? How can you physically do that? And like, why are your eyes not bleeding out of your sockets? I just was like, and your hands like crumpled into these permanent like carpal tunnel pain things. I was just like, but I mean, like there's people that can do that, but then again, yeah, there's tortoises like me, and like I'll just like finish off by saying, I think Colin may have tried to give that example to just kind of like say, Heart of Thorns content-wise is going to be about equal to what we kind of initially got. I think he's trying to kind of say that, to kind of say the amount of content and stuff you can do in Heart of Thorns is about equal to like what we threw at you at launch, kind of thing. That's kind of what I was getting away from that by saying 1 to 80 is experience. Like I was kind of thinking
he was
that
just trying to give a timetable.
Like
I don't think that has anything to do with the overall content. Plus, like I said, they're adding more masteries later on. So, and Aikun made a good point in chat, is that you don't want them to simply add mastery tracks, like just to add them, because then it does become a grind. It's like, well, then what's the point? It's quantity over quality. But again, like I said, they put out a living story release every 2 weeks, and they were packed full of content and achievements and loot, and we didn't see it as this, oh, they're just throwing stuff out there. You know, they were quality releases every time. And again, they could take these breaks. You know, they'll take a break for Christmas, and they'll take a break for the summer or whatever. I don't know. We're just going to have to see.
Yeah. There are, as I kind of understand, there are also going to be a finite number of mastery points attainable in the world as well.
I forgot about that.
So for those of you who haven't had a chance to get your hands on the latest iteration of the beta, you collect your mastery points through completing events or communing with locations or whatever, and then you spend that point unlocking the mastery. But you don't unlock the mastery ability, you unlock the ability to gain experience.
I completely forgot about that
along that line. So
Right.
So at the moment, or where they're at right now, they're not in a position where they can just continually add mastery lines, because fairly soon Tyria is just going to be filled with mastery points. You're going to be walking around corners and through caves, and there's going to be a long solid line of bright yellow orbs to press F against. But that does mean that if they want to add more mastery points, they have to add other new content to the game. They have to add new maps where they can justify putting in these points and things to collect.
The real question will be, how many total mastery points are we talking about here? Let's just talk about Maguma, because old Central Tyria is probably more than fleshed out. So if we're looking just at Maguma, how many mastery points are there going to be? We'll call them easy to get mastery points because they're just there in the world. You glide to them, or you climb the rocks to get to them, or whatever the case is. How many of those are there going to be? And in my opinion, anyway, there should be less of them than what you need to unlock everything. And the reason I say this is because the top tier reward in adventures also can reward or will reward mastery points. So then this forces, for the completionist out there, this then forces you to go and do those adventures and be good at them in order to get, or at least be competent in them to get then these mastery points. And for those who don't like adventures or who don't want to do that content, then there is this meaningful choice of, well, I'm going to be maybe 10 mastery points short of unlocking everything in Maguma. What do I really want to get first? And then maybe I'll look at adventures later if I really want that stuff. I know some people won't like that approach to it, and I can understand that, but I don't want there to be this overabundance of mastery points, so then getting mastery points like hero points currently seems kind of pointless. You have 213 extra hero points, and yes, you will use a number of them on the elite specialization, but you're probably still going to have bonus left after, even when that's done.
Yeah.
So then there just seems like there's excess of points, and there's no real, I don't know. It's lacking something for me in that situation.
I agree. In that case, it might be best to go for your exploration mastery track first, because through being able to access new places on the map and new adventures, you'll be able to earn more mastery points.
Exactly.
Plus, I think I'm wondering if that's going to be required to get through the story, and that might be a way. If the next story step is locked off because you have to get gliding level 4 before you get there, that's gonna help slow down people from going through the story in one night.
Yeah.
I was almost wondering, about like the story instances, because Peachy, you're talking about them doing like a 2-week cadence again, because we've already seen that they can do that. I thought it would be kind of interesting. What if they, in an effort to kind of just extend the life for at least a good couple months or so, is that like if they actually made each like chapter of the story to not all be there when you actually like get the game and it comes out, but they'll actually release like consecutive chapters like every 2 weeks, so that you cannot physically like blow through the entire story like in one day, so that like every 2 weeks the next full-on chapter that could have like, I don't know, however many instances in it, but each chapter could be released every 2 weeks or something.
I think doing that will destroy the community.
Yes,
it will
I agree.
destroy.
I think if Heart of Thorns launches without some kind of conclusion, then there will be rage. We know that we're going to get a Living Story Season 3. We know we're going to get more expansions. So we know that there's not going to be an end to the story. There's always going to be stuff that's that's not done, that we have to, okay, this is the next adventure. But yeah, for Heart of Thorns to launch without an end to the story and just says, oh, wait for the next content update for the next part of the story. No. Yeah, I agree. I think that would be a terrible, terrible mistake.
Yeah. And on top of that, at the end of last year, we got a whole bunch of episodic content for free. And you look at it like that, and it becomes very easy to forget elite specializations, Revenant, Stronghold, Guild Halls. They're just going, hey, we're getting new areas like Drytop and the Silver Wastes that were free. And then episodic game content.
You're making us pay for something that you gave us for free.
That you gave us for. I mean, obviously, there's a little bit of entitlement or whatever going on in that argument, but I think it would be justified, because if you're using a model which previously you've given away free content to the people who were playing, and they're saying, well, we're going to do the same thing again, and on top of that, the fact that some people have just paid £80 or $90 or whatever it is to only play a portion of the game, and then they have to wait for the games company to dictate when they can play the game that they spent their money buying.
Right.
I don't know. I just find that so strange, I guess, because I'm not used to that thought, because for like an expansion, like you get like the levels to come out, and then the story will just keep going as the months go by, just like how like the seasons, like the the full story and like 8 episodes or whatever weren't available to you right when season 2 like began. So I just
Right,
find
but
it
that
odd
was a
to
free
just
that was a
want
free
it all
content
together.
update. That's what their living world is. When you bought Guild Wars 2, the base game, it came with a full personal story with a beginning, a middle, and an end, a conclusion. There was still questions. There's still other Elder Dragons out there. There's still, threats to Tyria, and that's the continuing story, and that's what the living world gave us. But I think if Heart of Thorns launches, now I'm not expecting us, when Heart of Thorns launches, I'm not expecting us, whether this content is time gated or not, I'm not expecting us to kill Mordremoth, and that's going to be the conclusion. But there's got to be some conclusion to the story, but then the possibility to keep going, obviously, for Living World.
Yeah,
I just can't see, okay, here's the first 5 chapters, and then you have to wait for the next update. That's... no.
Yeah. I mean, when you're... Here's something, and I think there's something ArenaNet learned, is that players want a content dump. And when you buy an expansion pack, that's what you're buying, really. When it comes down to it, you're paying for a content dump. And to then say, well, the story's gated, you can't actually play it because you got to wait 2 weeks to get to chapter 2. I mean, that works for Living World because it's a bridge. You're bridging this gap of a season. And it works in that context. But when you're doing an actual expansion, you're dumping content. Not just features, because I think Mastery Lines will come with feature packs in the future. Not just that, but you're talking about the whole shebang. You want story, you want whatever challenging group content is, you want updated fractals and legendary weapons and mastery system and adventures and etc., etc., etc. You want all of that at one time for you to play at whatever your pace happens to be. Fast, slow, medium, whatever.
Right. And the difference is it's because you're paying for it. Now,
Right,
I completely agree. Now, for the Living World, it coming out chapter by chapter, that's great. I love that. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that I don't like this story step, but that's Living World. This is the thing that ArenaNet has done. They've created. Now there's expansions and there's Living World content, and these are 2 separate things. And their player base kind of has to understand that there's these 2 separate things, and that's something that in the price of the expansion we know that we're paying for. We're paying also for Living World Season 3. Because we know that you cannot play with Living World Season 3 if you don't have Heart of Thorns. So that's, we're going to get that content as well, but that needs to be its own story. That's the continuation of the story that we're going to get in Heart of Thorns.
Well, I guess that's just the kind of interesting thing about how Guild Wars 2 is doing things, because they haven't been quite as crystal clear on how the narrative is working that way, at least from my perspective, and just because myself and probably like a lot of other MMORPG players are just kind of conditioned to see expansions and their stories that way, that it'll just kind of come out as it is. So just like having it all dump out. But then again, of course, like as you say, we have these Living World seasons, which ArenaNet from the beginning, when they started creating them, were saying, oh, these things can have as much stuff as an expansion, so those have the potential of expansion-wise content. But now we're getting the first official expansion, so it is kind of uncharted territory. Well, at least for me, with like 10 years of conditioned WoW expansions, so I'm just kind of, that's kind of what like my brain automatically thinks of as like, oh, okay, expansion comes out and like the story will be finished. I don't know, however many months later, or whatever. But
the thing
as
is,
you guys are saying, there's different expectations here.
With Warcraft, though, they almost do a similar thing. You pay for the expansion, you pay for the content dump, and then you have the content patches that bridge the gap in between Burning Crusade, Lich King, Cataclysm, Pandaria, and now whatever the new one is. So I think it's a good model, but there comes a point where you have to say, right, we're actually going to, if you're going to make somebody pay for the content, you've actually got to make it worth make it worth their while. I mean, I'd be pretty annoyed if I've got my copy of Heart of Thorns, obviously, and then ArenaNet turned around and said, oh, by the way, you're only going to be able to play up to you're only going to be able to play the first chapter of like rescuing all the Pact members, and then in 3 months' time you'll be able to play the Nightmare Court arc. You'll be able to play the Mordramoth arc. You'll be able to play whatever. Nightmare Court arc is purely speculative on my part, by the way, but I think it is going to happen.
So this comes full circle back to the fact that players are telling ArenaNet, look, we want the expansion ASAP, but take your time. We want it finished.
Right.
Don't release
Absolutely.
3/4 of the expansion and then tell us we need to wait 2 months or 3 months for the finale or something.
Right.
And this is before you even start Living World Season 3.
Right.
This is what players do not want to see. And I think that is pretty much that.
Chat's bringing up some good points as well. With the Living World is meant to be a build up to the expansion, and that's what Season 2 was. Season 2 was a build up to Heart of Thorns. And see, I think in my mind, I'm a little bit jaded by the fact that Season 1, I have to remember, Season 1 was kind of like an experiment for them. And see, to me, okay, personal story it ended with a satisfying finale. We defeated Zaitan. Yay, we partied. Season 1 ended with us killing Scarlet. Yes, it left a lot still open because we know that she, awoke an Elder Dragon, but we killed Scarlet. That was a satisfying conclusion. Season 2 was a direct build up to Heart of Thorns. To me, I didn't get a satisfying conclusion in Season 2. I wanted to see something big happen. Yes, we got this reveal that the Sylvari are minions. To me, when episode 8 ended, I was very disappointed. I was like, I thought we were going to catch Kaith, we were going to find out what her secret was, what the egg is. I wanted all these answers, and I didn't get them. So I need these answers in Heart of Thorns, or I'm going to be really pissed.
This is kind of why I really like playing different MMOs, because there's like different styles. Like I find Guild Wars 2 and WoW can complement each other for me, because I love both of them. But the companies and the games themselves are very different styles, and like this, what we're bringing up is something I'm finding very fascinating, because like for like my brain to kind of get used to this, it would be kind of, for instance, when like Wrath of Lich King, whatever, came out, like when you buy the thing, like the entire like almost 2 years of that story was in the game right there when you buy it, which is kind of like a whoa, like wow. that's a big thing. But then again, of course, like WoW doesn't have this season living world nature to it, just as like Chavin was saying, and they're right, is that the seasons are these interesting build-ups to these expansions we're going to be getting in Guild Wars 2. So I'm finding it very interesting, just like how the two companies are designing it, because I like it because they have obviously very different models on what they want to do, and that's really fun about this. And it feels exciting because it feels like very uncharted territory in what they're trying to do. So, I mean, hey, like if they have like the entire Heart of Thorns narrative in the actual box, I mean, holy wow poop. I mean, like, yeah, I can wow. I just, not in the game WoW, just wow. Like I mean,
don't get me wrong, I don't want everything to be answered and there's nowhere else left to go. Like, I want there to still be questions. I want us to still, have a clear direction. Okay, like I think Heart of Thorns should end that we have an idea of where Living Story Season 3 is going to be, what it's going to be about generally.
Right.
Like, say it has to do with the Forgotten, and we use the Forgotten to help maybe not kill Mordramoth, but kind of put him back to sleep or something, and then we kind of get this hint that maybe there's Forgotten still alive. Maybe they're in the Crystal Desert. I don't know. But in the meantime, we get the answer to all these questions. What is the egg? Where is Kaith going? Is Kaith evil? We have characters dying. We have all of these. We have some resolution. Maybe there's going to have to be some kind of something with Mordramoth, obviously. But then there's this, this hint of where to go next. But the current questions, we have a satisfying answer to them. I don't know. That's that's what I want so badly.
See, I think I had a very opposite experience of Peachy. I was pretty satisfied at the end of season 2. ArenaNet always likes to come back and say it's like a TV show. It's this cliffhanger where they build up a particular story arc all season long. There's some sort of payoff, but then the payoff also ends with 50 more questions, which leads you into the next season, right? And I think season 2 was very much about that. Yeah. We did catch up with Kaith. We did find out what her secret was. We still have no idea why she thinks that she can take care of the egg better than we can, but that's, I guess, we'll find out. I don't know. I was pretty satisfied at the end of season 2 as far as where it ended. But that's that's the interesting thing about the story. Different people perceive the story a different way, and it just goes to show you. That's why people have different favorite TV shows. They run their stories in different ways, and so it's pretty interesting when you sit and think about whether you were or were not satisfied with the end of season 2, and whatever the ending for Heart of Thorns is going to be, whether you will or will not be satisfied with however that ends. I can promise you there will be tons of cliffhangers at the end of Heart of Thorns. This doesn't mean there won't be payoff. There will definitely be payoff.
Yeah.
But this is how you lead into season 3, right? This is how they do it. They leave you with questions or what happened to so and so, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm very much looking forward to that.
Yeah. I think it's all about expectation. My expectations were too high. I need to just obliterate my expectations for Heart of Thorns.
I was actually wondering, guys, what do you think of, because with the possibility of them introducing new mastery lines, what do you think of them having the potential of being similar to the kind of traditional content patches that other expansions of games tend to be? Because the mastery lines, I think, could possibly hold the potential of adding in a whole new set of content, because at least 3 of the tracks that we're getting are purely lore and narrative connected with the new races we're getting. So then if you could imagine in the next month or something a slew of new mastery things where one is meeting up with Clint's Uncle Shimmershanks and getting to know him or something, which I would love, which of course they would never do. But I was just wondering if you guys think if you guys think that the mastery lines could be a kind of vehicle to extra content, not the size of maybe a living world type thing, but just kind of a little extra helper to.
Yeah, I think there's these mini stories they can tell with these mastery lines as well. Let's throw out White Mantle or something. There could be a White Mantle line that somehow, by increasing this, it allows you to interact with them, perhaps get a piece of the story. The more you progress it, the more of the story, the more of the mini story you get with that. Yeah. It's just a matter of how well they can they can meet up story with mastery line in that particular circumstance. My fear with things like the Exalted and the Itzel and the Nuwak is that I think most of them are going to be fairly cookie cutter for the most part. There will be the beginning of the mastery lines will all more or less be, okay, now you can access a vendor from these guys, and then you can access secret tunnels or something, and then each one of them will have ignore Iron Bark, or ignore Poison Spit, or ignore Wing Buffet, or ignore some mechanic, basically. But the cookie cutter pattern, I guess, will be fairly similar between the 3 lines. The lore will be very different for all of them. There'll be different tidbits of story, and the flavors will all be different. But I mean, the cookie cutter pattern, my fear is that those will all be the same, at least for the original 3 races that we're going to meet.
Yeah.
I think that's expected, just because they kind of have to set it up that way. They they're going to have the Itzel village and the Nuhawk village, and they've said, you're going to unlock vendors, you're going to unlock areas, and so you're absolutely right. And I think we're going to get lore along the way, as we learn we learn their language, we learn to communicate with them, so that we're going to get bits of story here. And I just hope that those bits of story that we get give us a lot of speculation. This is one of my favorite things, is the speculation. So I hope that they give us these little tidbits that I can watch 6 hours of Wooden Potatoes videos on after I finish playing.
Well, because it would be really cool if with the lower racial lines, if as you're graduating through the masteries, it'd be kind of cool if you actually got a little kind of mini instance with each one as you go up. There's a little story instance within just the mastery track itself that's connected to that race and what they're doing. This is kind of an added bonus to that thing, which I would be really in heaven about, because then that could actually be a fantastic vehicle to continuing the story
the IGN article mentions, I forget which track they were talking about, but they mentioned in one of the tracks being able to summon this 5-man challenging boss or something.
Yeah.
Which sounds like, if it's a 5-man boss, it sounds like it must be instanced, because otherwise how could you say it's only a 5-man boss?
Right.
And this is something that you can only summon or you can only access if you have whatever this particular part of the mastery line is. Now, it's obviously we don't have all the details, but does everybody have to have this, or does only one person have to have this to activate it?
Right.
I guess that we're going to have to wait for, but it's very similar to what you're talking about, Ak, as far as you get to a certain point in a particular mastery line, and now on a daily basis you can summon this supposedly difficult boss to beat, who is going to have special loot drops, probably special gear or weapons or something like that, because this would be a symbol for those characters or for those players who get to that point, and you can say, look, I have the Nuwak boss's helmet, something, I don't know.
Yeah.
All right, guys, we're going to end the show there. Please stay tuned if you're watching live on Twitch for the post-show discussion. We'll kind of continue on this line. We're on a roll here, but I don't want the show to go for 3 hours. So thank you so much, guys, for watching. Like I said, if you're on Twitch, stay tuned for the post-show. If you're on YouTube, thank you so much for watching, and please scroll down and find all of our Twitter and YouTube links, and check us out for more Guild Wars 2 content. And we will see you guys again next week. Have a wonderful day, guys. Bye.
Yeah. Take care.
Au revoir.
Bye.